community is composed of the collective stories, history, and heritage of its people. It's important that everyone has the opportunity to share their story and be heard. The Community Oral History Project creates community space for people to come together to share and learn about the history, heritage, and traditions of our communities, highlighting what we share in common. Community can be defined by location, or community can be considered a collection of people bound together by shared experiences. My name is Emily Jones Hudson, and here are these stories. How you doing?
Good.
All right.
Yeah, it's good to see you, Pastor Emily.
All right. Josh, if you can just tell me your full name, when you were born, where you were born, and then we'll go from there.
Yep, yes, ma'am. So, full name is Joshua Randall Holland. I was born at Fort Polk, Louisiana, which is an Army base in central Louisiana. So I was born there. My dad, Larry Randall Holland, that's where I got the Randall from. Larry Randall Holland was serving in the Army. He was a medical administrative officer in the Army, and he and my mom, they were stationed there at Fort Polk, Louisiana, in Leesville, Louisiana. And I was born there May 25th, 1983, in an old World War II hospital. My parents joke around that shortly after I arrived, the hospital was condemned. It was just an old World War II hospital, and it's funny because anytime I tell an Army, anyone who served in the Army, anytime I mention that I was born at Fort Polk, like the look on their face, because Fort Polk was just kind of infamous, I guess is the word, or just it was a place in the Army that nobody wanted to be stationed. It was like, oh my gosh, you got Fort Polk, like everybody just, middle of nowhere in the central Louisiana swamps, and wasn't a desirable place to be stationed. But that's where I was born, Fort Polk, Louisiana, 1983. So.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
So you have a military family. You come from a military family.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Yeah. So my dad did ROTC. He actually did ROTC in high school. Did Navy ROTC. My dad grew up in and around the Lexington area. So my dad did junior ROTC when he was in high school. Wanted to join the Navy. Had a collapsed lung as a teenager. So the Navy wouldn't take him, but then my dad got into the ROTC for college and went to Morehead State University on a ROTC scholarship. And of course, if you take that scholarship, then you end up being obligated to serve so many years after college, but you also get commissioned as an officer in the Army. So my dad, served in the Army on active duty for a few years. We went from Louisiana to Maryland, and then from Maryland, we ended up back in Kentucky. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
How old were you when you came to Kentucky?
So came back to Kentucky, I was in kindergarten. So I wasn't a military brat very long. I mean, my dad, I think he ended up serving maybe a total of 8 years in the Army. And then, we came back. My parents, when my dad got out of the service, they went back to Morehead State University. Both of them got their master's degrees, my mom in teaching, my dad in business. And we were in Morehead for about a year after my dad got out of the service, and then my parents both ended up getting jobs actually here in Perry County. So my dad got a job working for Walmart as a manager, and my mom got a teaching job at Dennis Wooten, teaching special ed. So,
Okay. What's your mom's name?
Donna
Donna.
Jean Holland.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So tell me about what made you enlist.
Yeah, well, so it's interesting because I never enlisted. So all the Army people or the military people, understand this, but it's something that I didn't really understand. because there's a part of the military that unless you're in it, like really in it, there's a lot of it you don't really understand, how it all works. Because, the only thing that I really knew, even though my dad was an officer in the Army, he was a medical administration officer, worked in the medical corps, like what the military calls the staff corps. Even though my dad was an officer, I didn't really understand. Like my dad didn't talk much about it. My dad, I guess, never really wanted me to go in the military. Like he never encouraged me about the military. Like he never explained to me really anything about how the military works as a potential career path, or as a potential, you could do this, after high school or college. Like he never really sat down with me and explained all the inner workings of the military, how to join, where to join, what are the different paths that you can go into. And so I didn't realize that you could join the military other than enlisting, because in the military you have enlisted and you have officer. You have E 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You have the E's, which are enlisted, and you have the O's, which are the officers. O 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so I didn't really realize how any of that worked. Actually, when I was a junior in high school, I really, I wanted to enlist in the Marine Corps. I wanted to join the United States Marine Corps. My pastor at Cody Bible Church in Red Fox over in Knott County, because I grew up, once we got to Perry County, my mom got a job in Knott County. So we moved to Knott County when I was in the second grade. So I grew up most of my life in Knott County over in Red Fox. But my pastor at Cody Bible Church was in the Marine Corps, and I loved the Marine Corps, and I wanted to join the Marine Corps. But I went and played college football instead. And so that's a whole, another story. But so I never enlisted. Long story short to say, I never enlisted. It wasn't until, I was 34, 35 years old that I actually joined the military. So, and I joined as a chaplain in the United States Navy, which chaplains are in the staff corps and we're officers. All this stuff I didn't know, all this stuff I didn't realize, but because I thought my opportunity to serve our country, because I didn't enlist right out of high school, I thought that opportunity was gone. But long story short, my wife and I, Taryn, we ended up living in New Orleans, Louisiana, going to seminary, going in training for ministry as a pastor, clergy, ordained minister. And so I'm serving in the church, but I didn't realize the military had chaplains. And so when we got to New Orleans, I started to meet all these military chaplains. And I'm like, you guys are in the military, but you're wearing a cross on your uniform. Like, what is this? And they said, well, we're chaplains. We're ministers in uniform, in the service, serving our service members, serving our warriors, serving their spiritual needs. And I was like, well, that's it. That's what I need to do. And so at 35 years old, I commissioned as a chaplain in the United States Navy, as a lieutenant, which is an 03, and raised my right hand, swore an oath to honor and serve our country, and that's when that started.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it sounds like the ministry was your pathway into the military. Tell me a little bit about how you got into the ministry.
Well, so I'll try to make it. It's how it is. It's a whole long story, a lot of details. But I guess the short of it is, when I was 9 years old, I was in the third grade. My parents got a divorce, and I'm an only child, and so that divorce. Any divorce is hard for children. It's hard for families. Anytime families, a husband and wife, divorce. I mean, it's difficult. We all know that. A lot of people have been through it. It's very hard. And for me, as an only child, 9 years old, I mean, my dad was my hero. My dad was, G.I. Joe. My dad was in the Army, and my dad was, as a young boy, I mean, your dad is just, that strong male figure in your life. And I remember my mom and dad got divorced. I mean, it absolutely crushed my mom. I mean, really crushed our family, crushed me. I mean, it was very hard. He ended up moving to London. So not only is he out the house and my parents are divorced, but now he lives in London. So it was a very difficult time for our family, for my mom and I, because we're not originally from here, so that you can kind of think about, like, we're not originally from here. So it was a really hard time. But I remember my mom just ran to Jesus, or Jesus ran to my mom, however you want to look at it. But like my mom, in her brokenness, in her struggle with what has happened in her life, I mean, she really found the Lord. I mean, just really, like, Jesus became so real to my mom in her lowest point of her life. Jesus just, I mean, he took over my mom, took over my house. Like, my whole house changed. My mom changed. Through that tragedy, I mean, my mom just became in love with the Lord. I mean, just fully dedicated to God. And the presence of the Lord filled up our house, filled up our life in a way that was just real, tangible. And we started going to church. I mean, I don't really remember going to church before my parents got divorced. I don't really remember, like, even talking about God in my house. But after the divorce, everything changed, spiritually in my house. So we started going to church and started going to Smithsboro Baptist in Sassafras, and then we moved to Red Fox, started going to Cody Bible Church, met some great pastors there, some great people there, Reverend Bill Schaefer, a lot of work with the Evangelical Free Church, Jeff Hawkins, his wife Luann. I mean, the church became our family, and Jeff, especially Pastor Jeff, became like my mentor, my spiritual father, and just took me, this 11, 12-year-old boy who doesn't have a dad in the house. I mean, he just became, he's an old Marine, preacher, and I mean, I just fell in love with Jesus too, and I fell in love with the church. And I don't know, I used to have people, when I was growing up, people would always say, you got an anointing on your life. You know how that is, some of the old church mamas and the older people, and we would do church camps and Bible schools, and everybody would say, man, there's something different about you. And I don't know. I'm 13 years old. I don't know what these people talking about, But everybody said, man, you got an anointing on your life, man. God's got something for you. And next thing you know, like in school, all my friends, even though I wasn't necessarily, I'm not perfect, even though I wasn't necessarily living for the Lord all the time, I somehow became, like, in all my friend group, I became like, if my friends were having problems, they want to talk to me, or want me to pray, or, and just next thing you know, I'm 14, 15 years old, I'm preaching my first sermon, and like, God, I mean, just like, this is just happening. And it was one of those things where people saw a calling on my life before I even knew what a calling was, And so fast forward, I go to, instead of enlisting in the Marine Corps, right? Because I wanted to enlist I wanted to be a United States Marine out of high school. But instead of enlisting in the Marine Corps, I had a chance to play college football at Campbellsville University. I go to Campbellsville, and if people know Campbellsville, it's a Baptist school. It's a school that's about Christ. Campbellsville was a school that was very heavy into faith. So I get to Campbellsville, and there was a spring revival, and the invitation at the spring revival, or the altar call, wasn't for salvation. It was for anybody who felt called by God to full-time ministry. Like, that's what you're gonna do with your life. You're gonna write a blank check, give God a blank check, God, whatever you want. And it was like God, it was like the Lord, almost like it was like a fisherman, threw a line out and the hook got me. Or like it felt like somebody like threw a spear and it just got me and just pulled me, yanked me. Like I didn't even want to get up, but it's like God got me up, said, no, that's you. That's you. I'm calling you to this. So that night, I remember staying up all night praying like, God, what are you doing? And I went the next morning, changed my schedule, changed my degree. I was going to be a teacher and a football coach, changed my degree to ministry, ended up getting a bachelor's degree in ministry, sports ministry, Jesus and sports. Got a degree in sports ministry and just went all in. I mean, preaching and teaching and doing youth stuff and revivals and all kinds of things, leading worship. And then after I finished Campbellsville, came back here, started working with Pastor Jeff Hawkins. He was at Beth Anna Church in Cornetsville at that time. Came back here, started serving there. And then next thing you know, First Baptist Church here in Hazard was looking for a youth pastor. And they heard my name from Hyman First Baptist, and other people said, hey, you need to interview me. And they interviewed me and called me to be their youth minister. And, we were there for 6-7 years. And then that's where I met my wife, Taryn, where we had our first 2 boys, Titus and Luke. And then the Lord calls us to seminary. So we end up leaving Hazard, going to New Orleans for seminary. And in that seminary, I mean, here's the deal. I'll say this. Through all this, the desire for me to serve in the military never left. Like there would be times where I was like, man, I wish I'd have joined the service. Or I'd see you guys in uniform. And I'm like, man, I wish I was doing that. There was just this, I don't know what you call it, but there was just this, it's like it's something I felt like I had to do and I hadn't done it yet. That desire was in there to be in uniform, to serve our country like my dad, like so many other people before me, like Pastor Jeff Hawkins, like so many other men and women who serve. Like, I got to be in that number. I have to do that at some point. But it was always, wasn't time or wasn't right, or, we're having, we got 5 kids and it's like, we're in ministry. It's like, and we got to New Orleans, finished seminary, was actually pastoring a church plant in Holly Grove, 17th Ward, New Orleans, Louisiana, same place Lil Wayne grew up, if people know who Lil Wayne is or care to know who Lil Wayne is. But so we're in doing inner city ministry in New Orleans, pastoring a church, and I walked over to the seminary one day. I'd already graduated, finished my degree, and we're going to be in New Orleans, right? This is where God's called us. We're going to be there. But I see a Navy recruiter at seminary, and it was like the Lord just like, man, you got to do this. You got to join, and then your path to joining is a chaplain. That's your path. So that's kind of how the ministry calling, and then eventually down the road, I always had this desire to serve in the military. And then at 35, that's kind of when it happened, so.
Okay. So was there a military conflict going on at that time? And what, can you share some of your experiences as a chaplain? What did you see?
So I would say at that time, this was 2017, 2018. So, still, you have the global war on terrorism still going on, still fighting, still, we still had, troops in, Afghanistan and Iraq and the Middle East. Of course, all those events, after September 11th, 2001. So, it's 2018 and we're still in that fight from '01. We're still in the global war on terror. We're still very much involved, very much still, having boots on the ground, people in places. So I joined in 2018, and we're still patrolling, still very much on that mission. And so I ended up being assigned after I finished officer development school. So when you join the Navy as a chaplain or as a member of the staff corps, chaplains, doctors, lawyers, those type of people, that we are there not as war fighters, if that makes sense. The United States military isn't depending on chaplains and lawyers and doctors to win the war. We're there to provide a service to our warriors, to our war fighters. And so we go through an officer development school, which is like fork and knife school, they call it. It's 5 weeks. They teach you how to put a uniform on, and we still don't know how to wear the uniform right, because we're just, we're a bunch of civilians that join the military, and we're trying to act like military, but we're there for a specific reason. We're there because of our training that we received outside of the military. As a chaplain, I'm there because I went to seminary, because I have ministry experience. And so officer development school, then chaplain school. Then after chaplain school, I get assigned to the USS Baton, LHD 5, which is a amphibious warship, which is a ship designed, and its purpose, the platform of that ship is, the Marines always joke that the Navy is the Marine Corps taxi. We exist just to take Marines to the fight. So that's what the Baton is. I mean, we got a bunch of sailors on there who work the ship, but then we load up a bunch of Marines, and we take Marines and their vehicles and their aircraft, and we take them to the fight, take them to the front. And so I get on the Baton. It's a full operational tour, 2018, 2019, 2020. So assigned to the ship as one of the chaplains on the ship, and we're out to sea, and we're working, and we're gearing up for a deployment, and we end up going to the Middle East. And so we end up spending several months in the Middle East patrolling those waters. One of the missions of the Navy is to maintain the freedom of the seas. And so, and it's a lot of you're trying to project that presence, letting other countries know that, hey, the water is going to remain free, and we're going to patrol it. And we're here in case anybody decides or thinks that they own the water. We're going to make sure that commerce and trade and cargo ships and oil ships, and that those aren't attacked, that other countries don't, like Iran or Iraq, other places, terror groups. So that was our mission the whole time, was just patrolling those waters in the Persian Gulf. And so it was on the Baton, and spent a lot of time away from my family, like a lot of our servicemen and women do. You miss birthdays, you miss holidays, and you're out to sea. And while we were on deployment, that's when COVID happened. So I was on deployment 2019, 2020. So when the COVID pandemic hit the world, me, along with several other thousand Marines and sailors, we were all at sea. And so we didn't have COVID. We left before COVID, and then COVID happens, and you have the world pandemic, and we're at sea. But we're getting all the reports from home, and people wearing masks, and places shutting down. And we had a lot of sailors who unfortunately lost loved ones to COVID, but we couldn't get them home. So we had one of our members of our crew, in particular, I remember, it was probably February, March 2020, and COVID had just started, and he was from New York, and his dad, passed away from COVID in a hospital alone, because there was no visitors. You couldn't see people, so his dad, and here he is at sea, and his dad passes away alone in a hospital in New York, and he's thousands of miles away on a Navy ship, and we can't get him home. We can't get him home to his mom, his family, to be there to comfort them. And so he had to wait, 4 or 5 months until we came home before he could even go see his family. So it was a really hard time for those sailors and Marines on board that ship, because the world's melting down. There's a worldwide pandemic, but you can't do anything. We can't leave the ship. We spent almost 200 days at sea because we couldn't. We weren't allowed to pull in anywhere, and the world was frozen, and we're floating. So it was a hard time mentally, spiritually, for the folks on board. And then when we came home to a different world. It was wild. It was like coming home to the zombie apocalypse. Like we left in December of 2019 and everything was operational, normal operations. And then when we come home, usually when people come home from a deployment, they come home and they want to party. They want to go out to eat and go to the amusement park and go, they want to do things with their family. But we all came home and had to go put masks on and go sit in our house. We couldn't go out to eat, couldn't go to restaurant. Like you've been on a ship away from, it was a wild time. Yeah. It was a wild time. But we were out there, the whole time you talk about just the military mission. We were out there to project, presence, freedom of the seas and, deter aggression. That's a lot of our military. A lot of countries think twice. Just to put it bluntly, Iran, they may have, Iran and some of these other terror groups, there's, the Houthis and all these other groups, ISIS and Al Qaeda and all these other groups may have grand ideals about how they want to unleash terror but we have the ability in our military to make people think twice. Do you really want to do that? Like, Iran, do you really want to, do this or that? So what you have here is just mementos, tokens, gifts, awards. It's just a part of the military culture. So, when you serve at a command, everybody in the military and military members know this all too well, but you get assigned to a command. And so my 2 assignments on active duty, my first assignment was to here, and this is, and I have what we call a good old cruise book right here, but my first assignment was to the USS Baton LHD-5. And so this is the LHD, the landing helicopter deck. And as a gift, whenever you leave, whenever you enter a command, we have these things called hail and farewells, or hail and bail, where you're welcoming the new people and you're saying bye to the ones that are leaving, because you're assigned to certain commands for just your orders. It may be 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, however long you're assigned to that unit. So I was assigned to the Baton, and as I was leaving after the deployment, after all the stuff we had done together for those 2 years that I was assigned to the ship, I was given, a picture of the ship, and everybody signs and writes a little note about you. And so it's just a great memento to have. You look back on it, and you read the names and you read what they wrote. And so that was from the Baton, as well as one of the chaplains there. We lived in New Orleans, so we loved the Saints. And as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord and root for the New Orleans Saints. And what was special about this is this gift came from the wardroom. So it came from the officers of the ship. But this one came from all the enlisted men and women. So that was a real special gift. Not a lot of people get, just something from the whole crew. and that was real special to get that from them. And then you see the second command was Naval Aviation Schools Command. And of course, I'm a chaplain, so everybody calls you chaps. So this is from the wardroom at Schools Command. And this is really special because not everybody gets these. And I'm just so grateful and fortunate because at Schools Command, Naval Aviation Schools Command, one of our schoolhouses there is the Naval Aviation Rescue Swimmer School. And those men and women at the Naval Aviation Rescue Swimmer School are the most motivated, dedicated, hardworking, in shape. I mean, they are the men and women that jump out of helicopters to save people's lives. And their whole mission and theme is so others may live. And I mean, some of the greatest memories of my life I have serving with the men and women at the Rescue Swimmer Schoolhouse. And they gave me this, and I'm not a rescue swimmer, right? I'm a chaplain, so I don't rate this. Like, only rescue swimmers get this. But they gave that to me. And then just other mementos, you know, you get cups, coffee cups with your name on it, and you know, this is what you hang on a wall, and you walk in and get you some coffee, and you know, just mementos from your fellow chaplains. And then, yeah, so, and you know, of course you get individual recognition, but, you know, to me, it's any individual recognition, like getting a accommodation medal or getting a meritorious service medal or getting a leadership award, any of those individual, and you know this, I mean, it's all about the team. It's all about the men and women you serve with, and you're only as good as the people around you. And I've been very fortunate in my military service to be around some of the best people that I've ever met in my life. And they have given me the opportunity to serve them as a chaplain. You know, they've given me the open door and the open hearts and the open ears and the open minds to be able to serve as a chaplain, because without them, I mean, the chaplain is, and you know this, Pastor Emily, you know, without the congregation, what's the pastor? You know, without the people, without them, they're the ones, that relationship, they're the ones that allow you to do what God has called us to do. You know, they allow us to serve and do what we've been called to do. So, yeah, I'm just, you know, grateful for that. So, you know, just kind of more mementos or things that you pick up along the way, and military members definitely understand this. You know, just kind of going in line with some of the farewell gifts, and you know, as you leave a command, you know, this is really special to me. This is again from the Naval Aviation Rescue Swimmer Schoolhouse. You can see, you know, Lieutenant Joshua Chaps Holland, Schools Command. It has, you know, your time you served there. But what I love about this, it has, you know, Proverbs 27:17 is iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. And you have a dive knife, and you have the Rescue Swimmer Schoolhouse coins. You know, these are coins. Again, you know, the military is big on coins and patches and mementos and just ways to show people appreciation or have something to remember your time there with. And then they actually, one of the rescue swimmers, one of the instructors, this piece of wood is from his father's tree farm. So this is a tree from their farm that they cut, that they shaped and worked on. So it's very, I mean, this is a very special memento. And then, you know, the patches or coins. You know, I spent a lot of time in aviation. Of course, I spent time on a ship. I have a whole nother box of coins somewhere that's filled with coins. But, you know, all the different patches from your different units, people you serve with, so you can go back and look at these, and every patch has a story. You know, every patch has a story. I think probably some of the and some stories are fun and make you laugh and bring back good memories. Some stories are difficult. We also make patches whenever we lose people in the military. As you know, with military service, there's always a chance when you raise your right hand and you swear that oath to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. There is a chance that the military service may require your life, the ultimate sacrifice for service. And in Pensacola, we had, not while I was there, I was not there at the time, but after I got there, I got to meet some of the families who lost their children, their sons, in a terrorist attack that happened in Pensacola in 2019. And so, some of these patches are dedicated to those men, Muhammad Hytham, Caleb Watson, and Cameron Walters. These are 3 young men who gave their life in Pensacola when a terrorist attacked the schoolhouse. And so, we also have memorial patches. So I have several patches that are, in honor of men and women that we've lost in service. But then I also have patches that are, friends have given to me, people I've met along the way, name patches. So yeah, they're just good mementos to kind of remember your time and your service and the men and women that you've been honored to serve with. So the places you've been. So.
All right.